Tanjiro comes running up that mountain. Snow falling, snow on the ground, and eventually would arrive at the very top. His family normally would have been waiting for him to come home. But this time around, his family was not waiting. His family has perished. A dead family at the feet of Tanjiro. Tanjiro doesn't know what to do with his overwhelming emotions, and all he can think about is how and why. And on top of that, all he can think about is saving his little sister that is still clinging on to last gasp of breath. He grabs her and picks her up and tries to take off with her. But as the last breaths would go through, Nezuko's mouth and lungs, she slowly would fade away. And Tanjiro could feel this kind of sense of power, strength, but also loss all at the same time. It seems like this weird kind of feeling, goosebumps you could call it, stretches from around his arm all the way throughout his back to the other arm, and then throughout his entire body as Nezuko would take her final breath of life. Nezuko would die right in Tanjiro's arms as he holds his baby sister, what we know as death via the blood of Muzan, but Tanjiro doesn't know that at all. Tanjiro just knows that his sister has now died. Eventually, Giyu Tomioka would arrive just as normal, but Tomioka would see only a dead sister and an older brother who is completely and utterly distraught. He didn't know what to do. He failed as an older brother, as someone to protect his family. He couldn't do anything. I mean, he couldn't protect them. But Giyu would eventually approach Tanjiro, and that conversation with Tanjiro would be something interesting, because Giyu would explain that it seems like Nezuko was becoming a demon. The process has already started, but then was interrupted for some reason, and he's not 100% sure why, but it seems like it worked out for the best. Tanjiro would lash out, saying, no, it did not work out for the best, that this is stupid that he would even say that is his baby sister, that he just watched her die. How could he say that? As he pushes Giyu, and Giyu would go flying backwards toward a tree, but be able to stop himself before he slams into it. Wondering where the strength, all of that power just came from this kid. I mean, he wasn't even that strong in the first place. I mean, it was obvious that he wasn't that strong. Look at him. And how was he able to throw Giyu that far, almost all the way across, maybe 20 meters to a tree? But Giyu doesn't think that much of it. Maybe he's just a prodigy. Maybe he's talented. Maybe raw strength is what he kind of thrives off of. I mean, they've seen that with Mitsuri, someone very, very strong, very, very physically intact. So maybe he's just another person like that. But what he doesn't know is that something else is going on, and Nezuko has evolved further than any demon, and actually has taken on a form that this world is not used to. That is a cursed spirit. Nezuko has now latched on to Tanjiro as the protective baby sister that she was, and as the protective sister that she was in the first place. Tanjiro doesn't know about Nezuko being basically attached to him, but he has a feeling that her spirit follows very, very close. But that's just hopeful or wishful thinking. Maybe. But soon, when he would adventure and being told to go seek out Urokodaki, he would stumble across a demon that looks to actually eat Tanjiro, and initially thinking Tanjiro was a demon themselves. But then he would leap at Tanjiro, but as he does, Tanjiro would see that, well, the demon would just get knocked away. The demon would get slung to the side, and Tanjiro would recover quickly, but would be shocked. How did he get slung to the side? What even happened? But he didn't have time to think. He had to fight. He would use the little hatchet that he has on him to clash with the demon, and it seems as if his strength is more than he's ever felt before, but it's an odd feeling. It's not like normal strength. It feels effortless, like something or someone is giving him the strength to do the things he is doing. After easily fending off the demon that is attacking him, eventually Urokodaki would come about, saving Tanjiro, quote unquote, tying the demon up, and as sunlight would eventually come, it would kill the demon entirely. From here on out, the training would begin, but Urokodaki could see that Tanjiro was an absolute natural, that he wasn't just a natural. It seemed that his raw strength and so many other types of abilities, it was as if he could move around so easily, and it was odd, as if he was juiced up in a way and just better than most people, as if he was getting an assist 24/7, but he didn't know how to put his finger on it. He didn't know what was happening. Yeah, that's until something crazy would occur. During the process of learning water breathing, he would actually utilize a couple of the techniques or some of the forms. But as he's utilizing some of the water breathing forms, he sees something, or your Urokodaki would see something that he never thought he would ever see. Tanjiro's blade itself would begin to produce water, begin to produce actual riptides. Every single slash, every single attack, he was emitting elemental waves of water that he could visually see, and Tanjiro could actually use inside battle. This would shock Urokodaki to his core, wondering how this is even possible. But it doesn't seem that these riptides, this water kind of effect, is that strong. But how is he even doing it? He would even bring this up to Tanjiro, saying that the breathing style he is teaching him should not allow him to bend the elements. Tanjiro initially would be extremely confused. I mean, what is so surprising about this? Can't you do this too? I mean, Tanjiro would be kind of awe-inspired by it. I mean, are you serious? And Urokodaki would say that nobody can do this, that this is supernatural. Only demons can truly use these supernatural abilities. And he would walk up to Tanjiro, looking around him, wondering what is wrong with him. I mean, is he a demon? I mean, no, he was out in the sun. I mean, that doesn't make sense. Like, what is wrong with him? They have he has no idea at all. I mean, there's nothing he could really put his finger on that would tell him that he, isn't some prodigy or isn't some crazy mutant hybrid or something. But I mean, he just looks like a normal guy, a normal dude. And Urokodaki would say that he must be 1 in 1 trillion or something, because it seems that Tanjiro's utilizing an ability that nobody else has ever used, ever. The ability to actually bend the elements to his will. And I mean, it seems that water breathing will at least suit him well for now, but maybe they need to find something more compatible, because it seems that his strength continues to climb as he masters it, but it seemed as if it was kind of like limitless in terms of how high he could go, but now he's plateauing. But I mean, how could you even call it a plateau when he's utilizing something no one else even can? Now, how much use would he get out of utilizing water? I mean, Urokodaki is not 100% sure, but he would tell Tanjiro that he might be able to get openings on demons by making them slip or making their footing slip, or maybe actually able to extend his own blade via water breathing, but he's not 100% sure how he would utilize it overall. But there's something going on that maybe he just doesn't understand. Even Tanjiro throws some kind of theories or hypotheses out there, and he says maybe it has something to do with his sister, or maybe the fact that she was actually supposed to be a demon and she ended up just dying. But Urokodaki says that she probably just couldn't handle Muzan's blood, or a demon's blood, so she ended up passing away. There shouldn't be a connection, or at least shouldn't be at this moment, like at all. But who's to argue? At this point, Tanjiro continues with his training and eventually would get to the point that he could easily take on and go through the final selection. And everybody would be completely shocked, and on top of that, in complete awe at the fact that he could utilize water breathing, but even utilize the element of water. even Kanao would begin to think that maybe she should actually communicate this to the people at the Butterfly Mansion, or kind of tell Shinobu. But of course, she doesn't really think for herself very much, so unless she is actually asked about it, he or she won't really say anything about it in general. So Tanjiro would go throughout the final selection very easily, defeating basically every demon, so we do save quite a bit more demon slayers. But I mean, let's be honest, if they were going to die, they would most likely still die, just because Tanjiro isn't really quick enough to save every single person. I mean, yes, he's doing some supernatural things, but it doesn't mean he's supernaturally more fast. So I can see people still, or quite a few of them still dying, just like normal. But the normal people that get through would still get through. That's the main thing that matters. Now, with some of the early fights, Tanjiro doesn't really have any struggles with them. Honestly, this elemental part of water breathing would only help him greatly. And you might be wondering, how did they even add this elemental part of water breathing? Well, I think it actually involves the cursed spirit. Nezuko herself, actually, if you kind of dig into the whole blood demon art part of it, I could see that Nezuko would have some sort of effect on an elemental version of breathing styles for Tanjiro. At least that's my take on it. And Nezuko would obviously help him drastically in fighting demons, maybe even able to more or less utilize her own strength to kill demons. But I think Nezuko wouldn't be at peak strength, nowhere near at the moment, because she needs to develop even further alongside Tanjiro. We've seen it in when she's a normal demon, so we're going to take the same properties as if she was a cursed spirit. But cursed spirits like Rika, and the only example we really have being that of Rika's attachment to Yuta, gives Yuta a ton of pluses and bonuses, giving him more or less like unnatural abilities, and that's exactly what Nezuko would do. And Nezuko would have more or less the same effect, being that they are super close as a family, being that of Nezuko and Tanjiro. So you would kind of take in kind of the same effects that Rika would have with Yuta. Now, the early game of Demon Slayer would just be so easy. I mean, we're talking about the Swamp Demon, very easy fight. Drum Demon, very easy fight. But of course, they would have conflicts with Muzan, but Muzan would kind of be at a loss, because he actually was trying to change this person by the name of Nezuko into a demon, and this brother of hers definitely smells similar to her, basically more or less understanding that they have a similar bloodline, and he would think that they need to send demons to kill him. And of course, that same scenario would happen very, very similar to canon, probably just easier in the regard of Tanjiro and Nezuko, because Nezuko, in my opinion, would be actually stronger. Yes, she's not an extra entity, but she makes Tanjiro so much stronger that it makes kind of the combined version of them stronger, if that makes sense. And the cursed spirit version of her gives him those elemental abilities, heightened strength, speed, senses, and on top of that, she can kind of actually utilize her own power to stop demons or give him openings, or eventually maybe even utilize her own powers to straight up kill demons, which is something we will talk about in a little bit. But that's beyond the point. Tanjiro wouldn't necessarily even be strong enough to take on Muzan, but Muzan and his interest in Tanjiro would derive only from, well, the fact that he kind of looks similar to Yoriichi, or it gives him Yoriichi flashbacks with his earrings, but that's literally it. Nezuko, in the grand scheme of things, is dead, does not exist. Nezuko is not going to conquer the sun. I want to make that very clear. I mean, she's a cursed spirit in this reality, so that part of it just doesn't necessarily matter to an extent. And with that said, I just wanted to bring that up because once we get on to the fight with Rui is when it really matters. We know that that Nezuko actually has a similar quote-unquote power to Tanjiro in canon, which it doesn't necessarily mean power, but we know that the sun breathing is very similar to Nezuko when she uses her blood demon art and she's able to make things explode or burst into flames. And when Tanjiro would finally awaken, or more or less utilize the Hinokimi Kagura, please excuse me if I say it wrong, but sun breathing, you know what I'm talking about. Once he awakens that and utilizes it, remembering the dance his father once did, well, that would actually be real. We're talking about an elemental sun breathing, and this would allow him to actually kill Rui very easily, because the sun itself is being utilized, or the element of the sun. It's not just fire, this is sun rays, and it's actually slowing down and eliminating the regeneration entirely from Rui. So when Tanjiro cuts through him, there is no saving himself, there is no doing anything. Tanjiro has awakened a new element via the sun, or the breath of the sun, killing him. And this is all because of Nezuko and her compatibility with fire. And that's kind of where you make the connection with Nezuko as a demon and Nezuko as a cursed spirit. And as Tanjiro continues to level up, she will continue to level up more and more and more. I mean, we're seeing how much she benefits him already, and there's no doubt that Tanjiro is already on a different playing field than what he was initially. But I gotta say this, and this is a very important thing to think about. Nezuko cannot be seen by most people, and I think for continuity's sake would not be able to even be seen by demons. I mean, maybe you could make the argument that Muzan could see her because they did have Muzan's blood, or maybe the demons could see her, but what does that really do for them that they can see her? Absolutely nothing. Because she's not an actual thing that is there. They cannot eliminate her. They don't have the means of killing her. They don't have the means of killing a cursed spirit or eliminating a cursed spirit. They just know that it's latched on to Tanjiro as if it's some sort of demon, but it's not necessarily a demon. It's another stage of what a demon could have been, being that of a cursed spirit. Kind of, at least. That would kind of be the mindset that they would go down. But I'm more on the side of they just straight up cannot see her. And if they cannot see Nezuko, the cursed spirit of Nezuko, then there is no worrying about that one girl that got transformed into a demon, and it's really nothing. Like, there's nothing there at all in that regard. Now, with that said, one person I do think would be able to see her, and for continuity of a storyline, would be Ubuyashiki. He would arrive at the Hashira mansion after defeating Rui, being congratulated and so on, and of course he would not be shunned at all because Nezuko's not there. I mean, there is no demon sister he has to deal with, and there's no reason for them to be mad at him, and they're honestly pretty impressed that someone as new as him could actually defeat a demon of the caliber of Rui. Yes, I mean, all of them could have defeated Rui, or at least to an extent, but I mean, he's just a normal demon slayer. Like, he just passed the final selection. So how is he able to do that? Now, with all that said, a conversation would stir up about his ability to actually use elemental powers, in which Tanjiro just gives his hypothesis, but he doesn't know for sure. Nobody knows for sure. That's until Ubuyashiki would arrive. But now with the arrival of Ubuyashiki, he would actually quote-unquote see the cursed spirit of Nezuko. Yeah, I think his bloodline and maybe the fact that he's blind would allow him to at least sense Nezuko, and he would question Tanjiro with nobody around about what is happening and what she is. Now, Tanjiro doesn't know. I'm gonna be honest. He has no idea. There's no books, no nothing about exactly what Nezuko is, and this could be a shift very soon in the world over the course of hundreds of years because of Nezuko's arrival, but at the same time, he has no idea exactly why Nezuko stayed, in which, I mean, is eventually kind of hypothesized by Ubuyashiki that it seems that Nezuko, being a cursed spirit latched onto Tanjiro, is not actually only there to protect Tanjiro, but actually a vengeful spirit seeking revenge on Muzan to actually kill Muzan himself because he killed his family, or their family, excuse me. And that is a crazy thought, or at least a crazy theory, but obviously we have no proof. Now, with that said, there's a couple ways you could think about this at the end of the day. A couple ways. And the main way that I could see it is that Tanjiro does go on these missions that he normally would. He would take on someone like Enmu, defeating him, Akaza maybe and most likely being able to actually save Rengoku, and as he progresses on to the Entertainment District arc, taking on Daki and Gyutaro, defeating them very easily with Tengen. But here's the thing, even when we get to the Swordsmith's Village arc, where they would most likely be able to defeat everyone there, this is where Nezuko would eventually conquer the sun. Nezuko's not there to conquer the sun, and Muzan doesn't know about Nezuko being a cursed spirit, and even if he did, how much of that would really matter, and what information would that even give him on a conquest to completely eliminating the Hashira? In my opinion, Muzan wouldn't actually seek out that battle, wouldn't actually seek it out because Nezuko isn't there to conquer the sun. Ultimately, Muzan's goal is to conquer the sun, and that was the whole reason why he went, was because of Nezuko. But if she's not there, and she's not there to conquer the sun and show that it is possible, Muzan would have no reason to actually seek out a final battle with the Demon Slayers, leading to a journey of the Demon Slayers trying to kill the demons, and it would still be going on. And as sad as that may sound, because they tried to end a 1,000-year kind of survival against the demons, this wouldn't happen in this regard. Now, you might be wondering, well, how would this version of Tanjiro even fare against those types or those demons? Well, this version of Tanjiro would be an absolute monster. I would truly believe that his ability to use sun breathing would make it impossible for the demons to win. Very similar, if you guys have ever played Baldur's Gate, there are certain vampires, you could say, and vampires are normally known to be, well, dying in the sunlight. Now, with that said, and why I bring this up, is because there are spells you could use to put sunlight, more or less, revolving around a character or a player. In doing so, this would make it so that the vampires would basically be vulnerable / dying every turn. Now, I want you to put that into Demon Slayer's perspective, where we have demons being constantly berated by the sun's rays, and even if they don't melt away and die because of it, well, because they're stronger or, better than normal demons, being that of the upper moons, well, Tanjiro would weaken them drastically. He, in a way, would be their own antidote, that they would be able to more or less utilize Tanjiro as an antidote to the demons, or kind of a cure that would soften them up, just like how Shinobu would get absorbed by Doma and make him drastically weaker. Tanjiro would be doing that for them. Tanjiro would allow more or less the Demon Slayers to have that massive advantage. But at the end of the day, it's up to you what you think is the canon of this version of the timeline. In my opinion, this is how I think it would go. I think it would go that Muzan would eventually decide that there's no point in continuing to sacrifice demon after demon with them dying. Maybe he would hunt down more demons to make them even stronger, because he believes that these are weak, and might even discard some of them himself, only keeping the top of the top. And we know a game of time is always better on the demon side, because eventually Tanjiro would grow old and pass away, just like a normal person. But in my opinion, Nezuko would still be there, the vengeful spirit, ready to latch on to the next generation of Demon Slayer, and maybe, just maybe, they will be given another chance to kill Muzan, or the King of Demons. With that said, hope you all enjoyed this idea, or this what if. What if Nezuko became a cursed spirit instead of a demon? If you enjoyed it, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff, and I hope you guys all have an amazing day. Later.